I've moved more times in the last 6 years than most people probably do in a lifetime. I went from LA to Virginia Beach to Miami to Virginia Beach again to Miami again to Virginia Beach again, and now I'm in Kansas City. That's a lot to unpack. That's a conversation for a different day. Throughout all these crazy moves and crazy relocations, my voiceover career has seen some of the best years that I've ever had through it. And what we're going to talk about today is how your zip code does not define your success. Welcome to Get Messy and a Monday mini mindset moment. This is the mindset space where creatives build sustainable, successful careers without losing their sanity. I'm Maddie. I've earned 7 figures as a commercial voice actor, and I'm currently in grad school to become a therapist. And I've spent a decade figuring out both the strategy and the inner game of a sustainable creative career. And I'm never going to be SU about what it takes to actually stay in the game. So my husband and I recently moved again to Kansas City. If you're on YouTube, welcome to our cute little Kansas City home. And I'm going to give you a very quick version of my relationship with moving. I was born in Chicago. I spent the majority of my late teens and 20s in LA. I was there for over a decade, became a full ass adult in that city. And then COVID happened, and my husband and I moved to Virginia Beach, and then Miami, and then back to Virginia Beach, then back to Miami, then back to Virginia Beach, and now Kansas City. If you're exhausted by just listening to me say that, same. It's been so crazy and so wild and so much fun. The reasoning behind all those moves is something I'll unpack in a different episode, but the hardest move that I had by far was making the decision to leave LA. I never thought I would leave LA, and then I did. And about 6 months after I left, I was connected with another actress who had lived in LA for a long time, probably similarly to me, like close to a decade. And she was in the middle of deciding whether to leave LA with her husband and move closer by her family that was located in Atlanta. And this decision was really, really tormenting her. And her and I talked through kind of the root of what was really going on. What was the thing that was actually tormenting her? And part of her identity was completely tied to living in LA. She was so-and-so, the LA actress. It had become part of her DNA, part of how she introduced herself, part of how she saw herself. And she was terrified to untangle that and scared to face who she was outside of the city that she called home for so long, the city that she discovered so much of who she was in. I related to that so deeply because when you've built yourself inside of a place, when that place is so woven into your story, leaving can feel like losing a part of yourself. And that grief is real and it's totally worth honoring. It's not just a logistics decision. It really can also be an identity one. And I asked her as she was making this decision, do you think your success and the belief you have in yourself as a creative in this creative career path can be capped by the zip code you're living in? And she was like, no, of course not. And I think that's the answer most of us already know. We just need someone to pose that question to us. Is part of it that we think we're only going to be able to find success in this zip code? Or if we're here in this zip code, that means that I believe in myself in regards to going after this creative career. And part of what was driving her fear was something a lot of us were kind of raised on in this industry, people who've been doing this for 10, 15, 20 years. There was the belief that you either moved to LA or you moved to New York or you busted, right? You weren't actually a true actor, a true creative unless you gave it all, you packed your car and you drove across the country and landed in LA or New York. And that if you were serious about acting, you lived in one of those cities, full stop, no exceptions. And I think that maybe used to be true. Honestly, I think back when I first came to LA to start acting, there were way more opportunities in LA or New York than there were in Chicago and Atlanta and Albuquerque and Santa Fe and Austin and all these other places. I'm really not going to pretend that back in the day that wasn't the case. When I started in my voiceover career, even, which was 11 years ago, we were literally going into my agency to do auditions in person. And I was driving all over LA to different studios for sessions. Geography mattered because proximity mattered at that time in the industry. But the industry has shifted a lot. And honestly, specifically in voiceover, that shift started before COVID. I mean, even in theatrical acting, there were more self-tapes starting to appear before COVID. I think there was more of a mix of in-person and self-tapes, but it went from being all in person to in person and a little bit of self-tapes to more and more self-tapes to like boom COVID. Now it's like predominantly self-tapes. And then COVID happened and the rule book didn't just get thrown out. It got steamrolled by an 18-wheeler. It got completely ripped apart. Suddenly everyone in voiceover was recording from home and suddenly location became kind of almost irrelevant for a huge portion of the work that we do. I know a lot of voiceover artists who grew up in regional markets. Like they built incredible businesses for themselves and they met their agents at conferences or through different online workshops. And they ended up signing with someone at the top agencies in the world, including my agency. So I feel like the barriers to networking and building connections are so much different than they used to be because we have Zoom and we have these in-person conferences that you can come to from anywhere in the world. For the voiceover community specifically, buying a microphone is not as expensive as it used to be. Like most people can have a relatively decent at-home setup and be going out for the same auditions that I'm going out for, even though I've been doing this for 11 years and started my career in LA. Like the barriers to entry have changed so much. And that changes everything about what geography means for your creative career. Since I left LA almost 6 years ago, I've watched a lot of my friends make kind of a similar move. Obviously, some are still there, and I'm not like hating on LA. I freaking love LA. Like part of my heart is in LA, right? I'm just kind of painting the picture because it's a trend that I've seen that I just took 6 years ago. And I've seen a lot of people take it, even like literally 2 weeks ago, one of my friends just left LA. And so I've just been seeing it more and more. And some of them have seen their careers significantly improve. Some of them chose to put their careers on pause and like redefine what it is they actually want. And for me personally, I've had some of the best voiceover years of my career since leaving LA. I started my own business. I've built incredible community through online spaces. I've gained things that I genuinely don't think I maybe could have accessed in that city in that season of my life, partially because my cost of living is lower. So I have a lot more opportunity and access to invest in myself in a different way. That's like one of the many reasons. Have I lost things? Yeah. And I won't pretend otherwise. Like the in-person creative community you build in a city like LA is something so special, and you can't fully replicate that somewhere else, but you can build something new and something different. And each city has like their own unique thing that they offer you. And sometimes different is exactly what you need to kind of like shake shit up and reconnect with your why or redefine your why and just like see everything through a totally new lens, not a lens that you're like constantly like taking the smudges off of, but it's like a totally new lens. And this is not a PSA to convince anyone to leave where they are. It's just a reminder that wherever you are, your zip code is providing you with a certain lifestyle. It's not determining your ceiling and your ceiling of the success that you're able to reach. And those are two very, very different things. Your success is not housed in a certain zip code. Your talent doesn't have a geographic boundary. And if you're staying somewhere that isn't serving your life, or you're letting fear of perception keep you somewhere that isn't right for your current season and what you need, it's worth examining. That's really all that I'm saying. I know leaving a place you love can feel like an identity crisis. It's kind of like you're abandoning a version of yourself that you worked really, really hard to build, and you built it in that place. So it kind of feels like, will I be this person or have this identity if I leave this place? And that's real, and you should honor it. And then ask yourself the harder question of, where will I be genuinely happy? Like living my life. Where will I thrive as a whole person, not just as a creative? Because I guarantee you, where you thrive as a whole person will only give you so much delicious, beautiful things for your creativity and for your creative career. So I'm curious, like just unpacking that a little bit. Start there. Start with you. The career and the creativity will always follow. I feel like I'm proof of that. I feel like a lot of my friends making that hard decision are proof of that as well. And what I also say too is I've found so much resilience in myself, and I've learned when you're uncomfortable, like you're very productive, because usually when you move to a new place, there's like a little bit of excitement, adrenaline, fear, uncomfortability. And I've learned that I could be happy in many places, and each place offers a gift that the other one doesn't, and each place doesn't offer you something that you miss in a different city, but that there's just so many great creative communities out there in this world. And it's been a really exciting thing that I've gotten to witness and notice in the last 6 years, and I didn't know if it was possible. And I kind of feel like I'm just getting started. We just got to Kansas City a month ago, and I just love the vibes of this city so far. I'm from Chicago. It feels just like nice to be back in the Midwest. And yet I feel like I'm kind of getting the best case scenario of more chill, vibes, like a more chill pace of life, but there's also like a city 10 minutes away from me with sports and action and art. And like I've been around more actors recently than I have in a minute. And it feels really good. So start there, dig a little deep into what it is that you feel like you kind of need out of a lifestyle right now, or what your space right now can offer your creative heart, and know that the career is always going to follow. So if this episode resonated, I would love it if you can leave a rating or review. It really helps this podcast reach more creatives that need it. And come find me on Instagram and tell me where you're building your creative career from. I'm super curious and I'd love to know that, and know that I'm always rooting for you today and always. You're the real hero if you've made it this far. Thanks so much for hanging out today, and check out the show notes for any resources or cool info mentioned in today's episode, or places to follow along if you want to hang out some more. I'm rooting for you today and always. Stay messy.